So today I want to talk about product discovery and how to do in practice product discovery. Product discovery is one of those topics that many times is kind of not paid too much attention to because it requires a lot of effort from you to actually go and make sure that you're identifying those problems that or needs that your customers have and actually building the right solutions for them. Many times we just jump into the solution space. We just hear about somebody's needs or a problem and we just jump right away to try to help them by solving their problem. And this might mean that we just go ahead and start building a feature without really analyzing if this feature is needed, how wide this problem is, and so on. So let's go through the steps that I take to do product validation, product discovery to make sure that those problems that you are identifying, those opportunities are the correct ones and how you are building the solutions for your users. So first of all, I'm going to say that my way of working is relatively similar to what the double diamond is proposing and also similar to what Eric Ries in Lean Startup is proposing with the build, measure, learn framework. Because in reality, I think that both of them are quite similar approaches, just that they are described maybe a little different and might be interpreted in different ways. Maybe this is just my interpretation and that's why it works for me. But just quickly, I'm going to also show you a template I have created to do this work that helps me organize and make sure that I'm tracking all the different opportunities and ideas and that I'm analyzing them and I'm following a process to make sure that I'm really taking a look into what they mean and I'm actually building something that is solving a problem that the users have. So if you want to help me and support the channel, go check out the templates and resources that I have been creating to make your job and your life easier. So now let's jump into it. I already talked about what product discovery is. So now we want to make sure that we understand the process of doing that correct product discovery. Something that many processes and many frameworks out there are proposing is that when you are doing discovery, you had to have a starting point where you actually do like a divergent approach where you try to get as many potential ideas or opportunities, and then you want to converge into a potential outcome that you will have to validate. So basically, that's why the double diamond. You first expand, and then you converge into an agreed solution. And this can be done for both the definition of the problem or the identification of the problem and opportunity, but also for the solution. So first of all, let's talk about the opportunities and the ideas that you have presented to. As a person that is building products and especially software products, you're going to be presented with a ton of opportunities of ideas that you can be implementing in your product. This might be for a new product, it might be for an existing product, it really doesn't matter. But what you had to do is that you had to be able to have a system to gather those ideas. That's the first part of the funnel. How do you gather the ideas? How do you actually add them into a backlog? Once you are there, you had to then understand which one of those ideas and opportunities really are problems that you should be solving. And this is important because not all the problems are worth solving. That's just a sad reality. In some cases, some companies might have a problem, but maybe this problem is not aligned with the vision of my product. So let's say that I've been talking about this gym or finding ways to do exercise application that I could be build. I'm not going to build it, but that I've been using as an example. But when you think about it, customers might be asking for something like a one-on-one coaching session with me, for example. And that might be not a scalable solution, and that doesn't align necessarily with what I want to do. Although, depends on the cases, in some cases in the very beginning is how you want to start. And in some other cases, they might want something else that it's maybe related more to their dieting or how to lose weight. Maybe that's not my core strength, and that's something that I would know very well. I had to say no to those opportunities, even if they are potentially big opportunities, because I potentially don't have the expertise to actually go and develop those programs or those products that will help the user solve that need or that opportunity. So you had to understand when you had to say no because it doesn't align with your vision and strategy. So it's very important that you set up, before you start working this, a vision and strategy. Then you understand that, hey, does this opportunity align or not with my strategy? So that's one part. That's the first part. Then you start chopping things out. Basically, and this is why I portray this as a funnel. For me, ideas, of course, is also as you can interpret them as the double diamond. I think that's an interesting way of portraying it, but there's a workflow portrayal or a workflow point of view. I see it also as a funnel where you start with a ton of ideas or opportunities, and every time that you start processing them, you are getting less and less opportunities and potentially also less and less solutions that you actually can build for that specific product that eventually you are, or for that specific problem that potentially or eventually you are going to build. The other aspect that you want to take into account is the market research. And by market research, I don't mean that you have to do a very scientific market research and a very wide market research. You have to validate that people have the problem that you are trying to tackle. And this can be done in many ways. You can just go ahead and start approaching people where they are and asking them about this problem. How real is this problem? How much is this present in their daily lives? And this is something that you can just look, where do people that could be my customers are in, or are they hanging out? And this can be just potentially going to a gym, in the example of the exercise app, and start asking people about how do they identify that problem? Do they relate with it or not? And then the other one is that you can also do interviews in person with people. You can just schedule one-on-one calls with people to actually ask them if they have that problem or not. Believe it or not, it sounds like people will never want to talk with you. The reality is that there's going to be plenty of people that are going to be willing to talk and give their opinion. So that's something that you had to just do it. And it might sound scary in the beginning. Once you do it, you probably will get people that are interested. Maybe it's not a very huge percentage, but there's going to be some percentage. And then you are able to validate those problems. So you are able to present those problems that you have identified, those ideas or those opportunities that you have listed in your backlog, and then go through them with those potential customers and understand if this is a problem that they have, if this is a problem that many people out there have. Typically, when you want to make sure if this is a big problem, you will go to somewhere like, I don't know, Facebook groups or Reddit or some of these platforms where communities are built around a certain interest. You have to match them with the potential customers that you want to tackle, and then ask them there, this is a problem that they have. You can compare several problems even. You can have a survey asking about the different opportunities that you have seen, and then ask them if these are problems that they have. Then you can see which ones are the ones that are the most potentially popular problems that they have. Once you start to identifying which ones are the problems that are more real, which ones align with the vision and the strategies that you have, then you probably have already reduced a lot of those opportunities that you have gather in your backlog. At this point, you can start just reducing them, and less of those opportunities are going to be moving to the next step of the backlog. And now something that many people don't do, and I like to still do, is to validate the problem definition that you had done. You can validate it only within your team, but I like to validate sometimes with some customers just to make sure that the understanding of the problem and the way that we had defined that problem is the one problem or the one opportunity that those customers have. I think that this is very important because we might have, when you are diverging and when you are just working and in a way ideating with how this problem or what this problem is and who is affecting, it might be that you are starting to miss something, or it might be that you have not tackled it correctly, or you have missed some part of it. So it's important that I think to validate that definition of the problem, to make sure that that problem that I identified for a specific customer segment, it's actually something that those user personas or customers really have. Just validate it. It's always good because then you are more sure when you're moving to your next step, which is going to be moving towards the solution space. So now when we are going towards the solution space, if you think in the double diamond, that would be the second diamond. Again, we want to make sure that we expand and we allow creativity when we're building those potential solutions or defining those potential solutions. Here, I think that ideation is the best thing that you can do. There's many ways of doing ideation. Some people are very concerned of not having groups, and there's good reasons why not having groups. And also some people say that only doing it alone is not that great because you need the feedback and opinions of other experts in the matter as well. So I think that for me, what works really well is when preparing this ideation, I like to do them as workshops, but I like to do them as workshops in a way that you allow people to actually independently bring their ideas. So ideally, most of the people prepare for the workshop and have gathered ideas before the workshop. But you want to allow time within the workshop also to come up with new ideas. And there's no bad ideas. Never. They can be crazy ideas, but it doesn't matter. They might be really good, or they might not be that great for the cases that we are trying to solve. But it's great that we allow creativity. It's great that we allow crazy ideas, because this is going to help you actually then finding the potential problem or the potential solutions. And I'll go in a moment of how to do this with the template, how to maybe structure that workshop. But the idea with this workshop is that you want to be able to gather those ideas into some kind of a backlog. You can use something like Miro or something like Notion to gather them. And then what you want to do is that you want to vote on those ideas. There's different ways of doing voting. Sometimes you have this voting that people have like 3 votes that they can distribute as they want among all the ideas. They can even put the 3 votes into just one idea. If they think that their idea or somebody else's idea is awesome, just go for it, do it. And then there's the other one where you assign like a number of votes to the whole team, and then the whole team has to work together on how to distribute those votes. And they can do it even in rounds. So there's different ways of doing voting. Maybe I can do another video on how to do this, but I think that it's very important that then you are able with your team to define and vote for those ideas and those potential solutions that you're building. And it's also very important that you bring the right people to the room. When you are building products, especially if we are talking about software products, what you want to have is the people that are going to be managing the product. So the product managers, you want to have the product designers, want to have your tech leads, definitely. And it depends on the company and the organization. You might have some other people that can help you bringing that expertise, maybe from the customer, like a product specialist, or expertise also on how to build it, like a software engineers, because there's going to be different approaches that they're going to bring into the table, and it's going to help you understand better, potentially, for example, the effort to build the solutions. What you want to do then with this voting, what you want to do in this brainstorming is that you want to first allow people to have a ton of ideas and present them, and then the team understand which ones are the better ideas. And that's why you do the voting. And then you want to converge into a few ideas that then those are the solutions that you are going to be able to prototype and test also with your customers. Now we are in the converging side of the double diamond, or in the end stages of the funnel. What we are doing now is that we are looking into all these few leftover solutions that we have voted. Ideally, you have voted something like 3 or 4 solutions, because you don't want to stick to just one, because then probably you already believe that that's the correct one. And it's not very good to be very falling in love with your own solution. What you want to do is to test several ideas and solutions, and actually test them with the customers. And you can test solutions with customers in different ways. And I'm not talking about building something as developing it. You can test these solutions with no-code tools, or you can test them by building prototypes with mockups in Figma. And sometimes even a simple wireframe can help to test this assumption. So don't be too strict about having something that looks perfect. You want to make sure that the people that you are talking with, those customers, those potential customers, are seeing your wireframes or your mockups, understanding the workflow, understanding that, okay, this, based on the problem that you described earlier, is actually solving the problem. And it's actually solving in a way that I'm satisfied with it, and I maybe like it, I love it, I enjoy it, working with it, or it's going to be cumbersome, or I don't even understand what I should do. So this is one of the assumptions that you have to test. Of course, there are other things that you want to test as well, is that you want to test how much effort it's going to take me to develop this. Is it something that I had the expertise within the company? Is it something that this is a desirable solution from the user point of view, or an enjoyable solution from the user point of view? Is it something that is it a solution that actually really is solving the problem in the most optimal way? Is it a quite complicated way of defining it? Is it affordable for them? Okay, you might not have defined the pricing at this point, but if it costs you too much to develop, it might be that it's not even affordable for the users. So all these are important aspects that you are going to have to analyze and to pay attention to when you are validating your solutions with your customers. Once you have done this, then you are able to gather that feedback and you see it from the customers and getting the feedback from the customers of which ones are the solutions that actually best tackle the problems that you are trying to solve for them. This way, most likely, most of the cases, you're going to have one solution that is the one that you are getting the better feedback. And that's the one that then you can start planning into what are the features that this solution is going to have? How is it going to work? What are the user stories or customer journey maps or whatnot? However you are working, that you are starting to build your roadmap on. This means that when you're doing product discovery, and this process can be done relatively fast. It depends a lot on the way of working that you have in the company. But what you want to do is that you want to make sure that you have this discovery process done in the company, because this is the way that you're making sure that you're solving real problems. We all have been there where we start building a feature and we launch it out to the public and nobody wants to use it, or just a few people are using it. And that's a horrible feeling for a product person, a person that is building products. And you don't want to have that. So being able to actually make sure that what we are building is what matters to our users is a very, very important step for us. And so now, as I said earlier, I created a template in Notion that is going to help you follow this process. So let's go and take a look to what this template does and how it works. So the first thing that I want to show in this template is that there is a ton of documentation on how to follow this process. So you can follow this video and understand, also look from here. But in the template, it goes to more detail, for example, on how to organize the workshop. I didn't want to go too much into detail on how to organize a workshop during the video, because YouTube's and retention and people's attention span. But now here in the template, it's actually quite well described and something that you can just follow here to be more precise. So basically what the template is telling you is what are all the steps to follow. And there's the documentation here on what is the process. So how do you gather ideas? How do you validate your problem? How do you validate the solution? How would you start in product creation? Now, don't go very deep in product creation. That would require its own thing, because then it will require how to build a roadmap, how to build the backlog for the different features that you're going to be building, something like user story mapping or different frameworks that you could use, or epics, tasks or stories, whatever you call it. Whatever you're using, that would require a whole different process. I might do something in the future, something that I'm thinking about, but it's going to take me a while. If you're interested, please comment below and let me know. And then there's going to be two boards that are going to help you to actually navigate this or implement this process. So first of all, there is like a relatively simple ideas board. And this ideas board or opportunities board, what it's going to do is just create an idea based on a template. And then the template is going to be moving forward in the backlog. So there's going to be different steps, like problem validated, solution validated, and then starting the product creation. So here there are going to be several steps. So first of all, you just had the backlog ideas. Then when you have new ideas, you just add a new idea. So when I go here and add a new idea, I can first of all just add what is that new idea opportunity. This is using a template. Of course, you can change the template if you need. I will let you know in a moment how to do that. So first of all, I will just go here, add a new idea. Maybe my first idea is that, well, hey, for an exercise app, probably I want to share my workouts with community. Community. There you go. So here there's going to be different sections that you're going to define. The idea is that when you finish this process, you could have a whole definition of properly laid out of what this opportunity is, what is the potential solution, and so on. So it is described in the process on how and when to add that information. So you don't have to necessarily add it in the very beginning. So don't worry about that. But first of all, there's one thing that you will have to describe is what problem you are trying to tackle. What is the opportunity that those users have? The second one would be the solution. And of course, you don't define the problem until you have converged and validated that problem in the first part of the process. The second one is then, how do you solve this problem? So here again, you need to have converged and already validated that potential solution. Then you also have who are the customers. This is part of your market research. Who am I going to be solving this problem for? You also have to have always your vision. This is probably not something that is going to be the same for all of the items, but it's good that you have your vision and your strategic areas mentioned there, because that helps you prioritize and it helps you see which ones align or not. And then I have a placeholder for if you want to expand, you can add things like what are the features that you could be building and other things like how I would do promotion and stuff like that. This is something that I might want to or might be expanding in the future, and something that if you decide to purchase this template, hey, you can always have access to the latest versions of it. And here you could see in which one step of the process those ideas are. Let's say that, hey, I have gone through the problem validation process and something that I identify that sharing my workouts with the community is something that my customers would definitely value. So I can put it already as one of the problems that have been validated. And so on, the items and the opportunities will move forward in the board as I am actually analyzing them and making sure that I'm identifying the problems that customers really have. As I said, you can modify the template here. So here it is, and you have this edit text template. If you go there, you can just go and edit that template, the content that is in there. If I now go back to my landing page, I can see here now, I can go here to the ideation workshop, and here again, it's going to describe me or is going to help me do the actual validation of the idea. So here what I could have is this all the ideas that are going to be added during the workshop. Everybody during the workshop would add their ideas into this table. Basically, you can just click on one idea, add your idea. So what would be the way to actually solve something like sharing my workouts with the community? How am I going to implement this? So I could have different potential solutions for that. One could be add links to social media. Another one could be that you create own community in the app. And there can be other ideas that you have, and those would be the ways that you could actually go and share those ideas with the rest. So you will have here a column of who has proposed this idea, and there are different properties that you are going to have to fill in this table. And this is an important one because you should here tell what do you think is the scale of the effort to build this idea. Usually a small being just a couple of weeks, medium being maybe 1 or 2 months, large being 6 months or over that. And then you can start to understand what is the potential of effort of building this idea. Then you can have something more related to the market research of who is the customer that this solution is tackling the problem for. So here you could choose which ones are the customers, or you can just add your own customers. You can just edit these ones, rename them, change the color if you want, add your own, and so on. And then, of course, which problems are this tackling? Typically, you are going to start just working with one problem. I just wanted to add this in case that for whatever reason, you might not have chosen your problem and you are working with a couple of problems. And then you would define there which ones are these solutions, which problems are these solutions tackling. Not all the teams agree and converge into just one problem. They might have 1 or 2 or 3 problems that they want to still further investigate at the same time. In that case, it's important to fill that information there. And then when you go to the market research, I didn't put it here, but it's something that we could add or could be added here as a column, as users affected or reach, or let's call it impact, maybe impact, and something that you could just add this as a numerical value. For example, the number of my users that would be affected by this, solving this problem. Might not be very easy to estimate, always a difficult one when you're doing this market research and estimates, but something that could help you make that decision. It's very similar then to what Ries is doing in that way. And then you can have, once you have defined those, basically in the process, what you're going to do in the workshop is that you want to fill that information. Once it's filled, everybody is going to add their own ideas. Then you can start doing the work of adding what is the effort, the customers, the problem, and the impact. Is something that you can do combined. You can do it through in the same workshop. If the person that has proposed the idea has had the time to do it, they can add it there. So something that you can actually then fulfill there. As part of the workshop, you can review if that information is correct or it needs updated. Very important, for example, to get the point of view of a software engineer to understand is if building this solution is estimated to be a large effort or not. Once you have done this, then you can start voting. And then in the process of voting, again, this process is defined in the documentation. You can see how to do it, but then everybody can go and then choose here if they want to vote for it or not. Again, you can limit the number of votes so you don't end up with too many votes. You can monitor then that people are actually voting and using the number of votes that they have. But typically people are going to behave well and they're going to use the number of votes that you have assigned them. Once you do this, again, you have now the solutions that you could be building and the ones that have gone in the most votes. Then you can start building the prototypes and the mock-ups and start testing those ones with your potential users and getting the feedback on how this works and checking all these boxes that is it really solving the problem, is it doing it in an efficient way, is it doing it in a delightful way, and so on. So you want to make sure that all those criteria that you want to track when you want to get the feedback from the users are there, and that's something that also you can add as check boxes in the different tasks to make sure that those aspects actually have been investigated and studied together with the customers. So I'm going to add a link in the description and the pinned comments so you can find this template if you want to take it into use. The goal here, again, as I said, just summarizing quickly, is that you want to make sure that you give yourself room to actually investigate those opportunities, those ideas of those potential problems that you could be fixing for your customers, and that you actually agree on one or two problems that you want to investigate or that you want to solve. The next one is that you again want to allow yourself to brainstorm and ideate how to solve these problems and allow your teams to bring all the ideas that they have. There's no bad ideas. That you allow creativity to flourish as much as possible. And then from there, converge into the solutions that really are going to solve the problem in the best way for the customers. And doing this together within the team by validating the assumptions of, are these solutions really workable for the users, and actually together with the users to actually get their feedbacks and maybe their hands-on feedback on, does this really solve the problem? You want to do this process relatively fast. You don't want to spend months doing this. You want to be able to then, from those one or two solutions that you have actually decided with your customers, that these are the ones that we are going to solve, then start building your roadmap, start building your backlog, and then define what features are part of these solutions that we are going to be building. And as I mentioned earlier, this is also very related to Eric Ries' build, measure, learn approach, because in the end, the process is very similar. You do build, measure, and learn approach from both the problem space and also in the solution space. You want to build the assumptions of what problem that we're trying to solve, you want to measure, and you want to learn. And then you want to do the same with the solution. You want to build a potential solution or define that potential solution with mockups, whatnot. You want to measure it, and then you want to learn, and then you adapt. And this doesn't mean that you do this one time and then your product is ready. You have to do this continuous product discovery for everything that you are doing, because you want to make sure that any feature that you're building into your product is something that you have validated with your customers. So share with us in the comments below, how are you doing product discovery, or are you just getting features and actually just starting implementing them? I will see you in the next one. And remember, stay safe.